At its core, The Real Housewives is about relationships between women, and one of my favorites across the entire series is that between Nene Leakes and Kim Zolciak on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Their textbook love-hate, constantly falling out and making up, being best friends, then mortal enemies, all in the span of a season. The chemistry between the two is insane, and they bring out both the best and the worst in each other. So in this video, I want to track their friendship, chart the highs and the lows, and assess what was really going on. So when the show started off, it seemed like they were thick as thieves. Nene, who very quickly emerged as the star of the show, was a true housewife, being a stay-at-home mom raising two boys with her real estate agent husband, Gregg. Kim is living a different lifestyle, being a mother like Nene, but also a proud sugar baby of sorts. She has an off-camera boyfriend who is allegedly famous and married, so he goes by Big Papa. There's a bit of an age difference between Nene and Kim, with Kim famously and totally being only 29 years old in the first season.
You are 29, you're standing by
I'm 30
it.
now.
You're 30 now.
I'm 30 now.
Born in
1978.
But the two seem to be genuine friends, having a great time wherever they go, be it shopping, out to lunch, or to all the hottest parties in Atlanta. But according to one Sheree Whitfield, who I assure you will be a very important player in this saga, the two had only recently reunited after a previous falling out before the show started filming. In Not All Diamonds and Rosé, a book that dives deep into the Housewives universe, which has essentially become a sacred text to me, she alleges that Nene and Kim hadn't been speaking prior to filming due to some sort of real estate fiasco with another Big Papa, and had only gotten back together to film the show. I guess we'll just have to take Sheree's word on the veracity of this, but when the show began, the two were clearly in an upswing, hanging out many times in the very first episode. Nene was even by Kim's side as she changed into an outfit in a gas station parking lot before heading to a party at Sheree's house where they would face their first test. So the big drama going into the show was that Sheree and Nene had had a falling out right before filming started. Kim and Nene get to Sheree's party and are met with a shock.
My name's there. Nene's isn't.
While Kim's name was on the guest list, Nene's wasn't, and despite the cameras and producers in tow, Nene is not let into Sheree's soiree. Nene is upset that Sheree has humiliated her like this, and Kim bucks up and leaves the party with Nene. Sheree maintains that this wasn't intentional, but Nene doesn't buy it, and Nene and Sheree spend the season feuding. Kim is a bit caught in the middle because although she seems to just be getting to know Sheree, the two seem totally smitten with each other.
You and I look so much alike. Do you know that?
I think so too. I think it's
We have a long face.
Kim also reveals her dream of being a country music singer and begins making plans to realize this goal. Nene, voice of the people, thinks the whole thing is a bit ridiculous and makes fun of the whole thing when Kim plays her tapes of her potential songs, but points out that one is kind of catchy.
Don't be tardy for the party. Be tardy for the party. All the way. Starts at 9:30. I'll be there by 8. By 8:30.
As season 1 progresses, we see Sheree and Kim grow closer, which upsets Nene. Kim feels in the middle, and Nene doesn't seem to like that the decision isn't an obvious one and begins to cozy up to fellow season 1 housewives Deshawn Snow and Lisa Wu.
Yeah, until we raise millions tonight. In our friendship. In our friendship, of course.
It's at a party with the two of them and their husbands that things start to really sour. After speaking poorly of Sheree, she begins to drunkenly sing a song in the limo on the way back home.
I know I said I'm 29, but I know I'm really 80.
Wow, that's your friend.
It's clearly about Kim, and Lisa Wu reports Nene's antics back to Kim and Sheree, causing the two to snub Nene at a shopping outing. It's officially war, and poor Deshawn has become a casualty.
Hey, Kim and Shawnee.
I knew that Deshawn's hanging out with Nene, so when I realized it was her, I didn't want to deal with it. I just hung up.
Kim also takes action, sending an absolutely iconic text to Nene.
She says in the text, I can't believe you talked about me. You have no class. You are so evil. Don't ever call me again. You are a low-budget bitch.
Nene's take is that Kim is being manipulated by Sheree, but if she is, it's working because they spend the rest of the season as a duo, not showing up to the other ladies' events. It's a shame that the rift ended up happening because around the time of their split, Nene ends up getting the devastating news that the man she always thought was her father, Curtis, wasn't after all. I noticed when watching these early seasons back just how much emotional turmoil Nene was put under that I think has gone under-acknowledged. She's so funny and quotable that that's really what she's known for, but I think seeing her deal with these emotional moments also gave her so much heart and is part of the reason she's one of the most loved housewives in those early days. We saw her dealing with this mostly alone, as her husband Gregg didn't support her dredging all this up, her kids were too young to really be there, Lisa Wu and Deshawn were new friends, and she had fallen out with both Sheree and Kim. Kim also feels like even though Nene is really funny, a lot of the jokes come at others, specifically Kim's, expense. It's one of the things that makes Nene such an iconic housewife. She can always be counted on for a hilarious reaction to whatever's going on around her.
And poor little Kim, wig squeezing her brain.
But I can see this being a challenge of being her friend. You've got to have relatively thick skin and an ability to laugh at yourself if you want to be around her. They finally spend time together in the finale dinner, and Gregg makes a touching speech.
You guys know who you were before this. You know what your relationships were. You know what your friendships were. Why are you going to lose them?
Nene says she wishes Kim had just come to her when she was hearing all this gossip rather than assuming the worst and icing her out. Kim agrees that she should have handled it better, and they agree to get a glass of wine to talk things out soon. Seeming to end back on track until the finale card tells us that this never happened and they filmed the season 1 reunion. Apparently the reunion wasn't a given to be filmed, but Nene personally called Andy Cohen and said she had a lot to confront Kim on, and the thing was greenlit and iconic lines were uttered.
Close your legs to married men.
It's clear that the two had not reconciled, and they go into season 2 absolutely hating each other. And Nene's not alone in this, as nearly every cast member turned on Kim in the downtime between the filming of season 1 and 2. Kim had been gossiping about all her castmates, saying Nene's husband Gregg was broke and that Lisa Wu had a rap sheet. Even Sheree is mad at her. The central complaint seems to be that Kim is a liar, but Nene wants to bury the hatchet, so the two get drinks together, talk everything out, and decide to be friends again, because they have so much fun together. Nene seems to be on a friend redemption tour, as she also decides to make up with Sheree. When the three of them grab dinner, Nene and Sheree decide to confront Kim on her lies. Kim comes prepared, but things still go left, and when Kim storms out, Nene and Sheree chase after her, and the fight spills onto the streets where Lindsay Lohan's daddy is waiting.
Hey, Mr. Lindsay Lohan, Daddy, you hold on 1 second.
Sheree fires a warning shot.
I felt the need to tug on her wig. I did not try to pull it off. I did not want to pull it off. I just wanted to shift it a little bit.
Which is a step too far for Kim. She says Nene has some splaining to do. Things are not great, and Kim is officially on an island. The other women are open about their disdain for her. Thankfully, there's a new housewife for Kim to terrorize, Miss Kandi Burress. Kim and her hit it off, as they have so much in common. They're both Tauruses and are both in the music industry, to varying degrees. Kandi reluctantly agrees to help Kim on her quest to be a one-hit wonder. Initially, the plan is for Kim and Nene to do Tardy for the Party together, but when Kim finally records the song, it's an oddly emotional moment, and she decides she just wants it to be her thing. Through my extensive Nene and Kim research, a lot of people seem to think that this was the breaking point in their relationship. It certainly does cause tension. Nene thinks it won't be a success without her.
Because of who I am, my personality, everything that has to do with me, I think that more people will buy the song if I was on the song.
Obviously, she was wrong, as Tardy for the Party is one of the most iconic songs in the Bravo discography, though not my personal favorite. But can you guys imagine how much more incredible it would have been if Nene would have been on it? Nene also talks about feeling like she was the one who sort of discovered this song, and this wouldn't exist without her seal of approval.
I was at Kim's house. I liked Tardy for the Party. Kim clearly did not like Tardy for the Party.
But still, the song ended up being very successful, and while I don't think it was the song that broke them up per se, we do start to see a pattern where Nene doesn't seem to want her cast members to have the same cool outside of housewives opportunities that she has. This will become more evident in later seasons, but I think this is where we first start to see it happening. Nene and Kim make up after the wig shifting moment, but there's still some tension, such as when Nene does an impression of Kim at her wig party that Kim feels goes on a little too long.
It was really funny at first.
Big Papa, I saw a bracelet I like. Papa, thank you.
And then she just carried on and carried on and carried on.
I can't stand you, Papa.
Things reach a blow in some off-camera altercation in the Target parking lot at Atlantic Station. We don't know exactly what happened as it wasn't filmed, but from what they've said, they were arguing in the car and some physical altercation broke out. Kim said it was one-sided and Nene tried to choke her, but Nene says Kim was physical with her too. They meet up to hash things out. Kim thinks Nene has a poor perception of her, while Nene feels underappreciated for forgiving her after saying Gregg was broke and trying to get her back into the group. They don't reach any resolution and Nene storms out. Obviously, we don't know what truly happened, but I think it's worth considering that Nene did take accountability for her part in it, and Kim has often been accused of lying, even seemingly getting caught in one by Andy at that year's reunion.
Nobody gets attacked and then makes out with a stranger. But I was very upset, actually, to be honest with you.
Remember the tape?
I think it was a kerfuffle on both ends, and in a chaotic situation, it can be hard to remember exact details of what happened. They spend the remainder of the season ignoring each other and talking behind each other's backs, but by the reunion, they seem to have moved past it and be back on better footing. I do believe it was during season 2 that we had the infamous moment where Nene was on Watch What Happens Live and Kim calls in and they go at it live.
Close your legs to married men, trash box. We'll call you later. Good night.
I'm sorry, Nene. I
Bye,
bet
trash box.
So this takes us to season 3, which has both their highest highs and lowest lows. They start out in a good place. Nene is shocked at the news that Kim has a new love interest. She has Kim over early on and goes all out wearing a gown and getting a chef for them. Nene opens up to Kim about the issues she's been having with Gregg, and they seem really close. We see them getting chummy, going to parties together again, and Kim leaves with Nene when she gets in a massive blowout with Dwight.
Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the drama that caused. This is not my nature, and I don't like to be pushed in a corner because I am a tiger and I will fight.
We start to see a bit of tension brewing with their capacity to be there for each other. Nene is really going through it this season with the dissolution of her marriage, including a humiliating interview Gregg gave to a radio station and the arrest of her son. Kim, on the other hand, is more focused than she's ever been on her pop/country music career, performing with Kandi and working on new music.
Whoa, 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 the ring didn't mean a thing, no.
She also meets her future husband Kroy midway through the season.
I've never in my whole life seen an ass like that. Yeah.
So she's not able to be there for Nene in the way she needs her to be as she's going through such a heavy time. Nene also feels like Kim keeps trying to relate her situation with Gregg to how big Papa is, and it doesn't feel like the two are quite on par.
Kim and I can never really have a serious conversation. Every time I talk to her, she said, Papa's that way. Papa, Papa, Papa.
Still, we see that Kim cares a lot for Nene, just maybe in a more of a superficial way. She gets weirdly protective of Nene during the infamous friendship contract situation.
This contract is only null and void if one of us is unexpectedly killed. It weirded me out.
Let's talk about being weirded out. Okay, Kim, I'm weirded out that you think you can sing. I'm weirded out that you wear a wig.
She's also super eager to have Nene come on her bus tour with Kandi, and lets it go at first when Nene bashes Kim in her interview with Jermaine Dupri.
Is it easier to get an artist in the music game when they're young, or can they wait till they get Kim's age?
Things go left when Nene comes to watch Kim and Kandi perform in Orlando. Kim seems eager for Nene's approval and calls out to her while performing. This would be their last good moment. Other than Kroy, another important figure has entered Kim's life, her assistant, Sweetie. Kim and Sweetie have been running wild on the tour, demanding constant smoke breaks and being too high energy for Kandi, Don Juan, and Derek J to take in the mornings. The three have also taken issue with the way Kim treats Sweetie. They feel she barks orders at her and is generally disrespectful. I think Kim was intending for it to be a bit, as we see a lot of scenes of the two at home with Kim screaming out for Sweetie to do something for her. Sweetie! But it didn't come off that way in practice. Kim wasn't seeing the subtext of her yelling at a black woman who works for her in such a condescending way. Kandi, Don Juan, and Derek J try to talk to her about it, but Kim just doesn't get it. When Nene joins the bus to head to meet the rest of the girls in Miami, tensions erupt completely. Nene starts by making fun of Kim's singing, as she has done countless times in the past, but since Kim's seeing herself as a real artist these days, she gets upset. Kim calls Thomas Kramer, notorious Housewives pot stirrer, whose home they will be staying at in Miami, and requests rooms for Sweetie and Don Juan, which upsets Nene as it was supposed to be a girls' weekend focused on Cynthia. When Kim says this is a work trip for her and Kandi, Nene unloads completely on her, releasing everything that's built up. She says Kim isn't a real singer and treats people terribly, specifically Sweetie. She says she treats her like a slave and is disrespectful. Kim is offended by this, but Nene feels like she needed to say something because it's unacceptable how she treats Sweetie. Nene has alluded to Kim's racial insensitivity as early as season 1, and would continue to do so time and time again, even up to recent years when she filed a lawsuit against Bravo, which said in part that Kim was racist towards her. Kim feels like she can't possibly be racist, but we see time and time again her do things that kind of make you wonder. But while I don't think Kim is dumb per se, I think she's not a very deep thinker and isn't great at seeing subtext or the words that aren't spoken. She's incredibly self-absorbed and has this unending confidence in herself. And while sometimes that makes for fun TV, it also means she can't really wrap her head around what the women tell her time and time again. That despite her insistence that she isn't racist, she does racially insensitive things quite often, and she needs to reevaluate if she wants to be in an all-black friend group. Let's put a pin in this for now because it will come up again. So back to the bus. The fight continues to escalate as the women jab at each other's careers. Kim thinks Nene is jealous of her success and can't stand that things aren't all about her. Nene thinks Kim is second best. Kim calls Nene an intern at 11 Alive and they argue about her show. I guess the fight is truly about who is really the star of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And while the answer is clearly Nene, both of them are reaching massive levels of success, and one person's opportunity shouldn't take away from the other. I think because they are the two strongest personalities on the show, at least at that point, they've gotten really competitive with each other over who is the bigger star and who should get more love and attention. It's hard to be friends with someone if you can't see them as your equal and can't root on their successes. The fight turns into nasty insults, and eventually Nene gets up and lunges at Kim, forcing a shell-shocked Kandi and Don Juan to have to intervene. Kim says the friendship is over at this point. When they finally reach Miami, the fight spills off the bus into the eccentric Miami mansion they're staying at. Cynthia, Phaedra, and Sheree are forced to put the pieces together of what exactly happened, and Nene and Kim continue to spar on the trip, especially once Nene flies in her real BFF Diana to stay at the house, which sets Kim off again, as the whole fight was sparked initially by Kim wanting Sweetie and Don Juan to have their own rooms. They're left absolutely hating each other for the rest of the season, but turn their attention towards major life events, as Kim is now pregnant with her and Kroy's first baby, and Nene has decided to go forward with separating from Gregg. So this takes us to season 4. I think season 4 marks a bit of a shift in the show, an end of an era, if you will, as both Nene and Kim have reached levels of success that seem to have eclipsed the show, and it seems like their heart really isn't in it anymore. Kim and Kroy are about to have their baby and move into the mansion of their dreams, and she seems totally disengaged from the other women. It's almost like she was teasing her spin-off Tardy for the Party all season, as she films almost all of her scenes with her family, and they seem to be showing out for the cameras, with her daughter Brielle acting up, and tension rising with Sweetie not acting on her assistant duties to Kim and Kroy's satisfaction. She's close with Sheree and sort of Phaedra and Kandi, as they are all members of the Smalls Alliance, but she's definitely the weakest link and not the leader, as Nene implies on the South Africa trip. Nene, on the other hand, has reached new heights after a stint on The Apprentice. Her financial situation is better than ever,
I am very rich, bitch.
which she makes crystal clear during a fight with Sheree.
While you were running your mouth with him, I was running to the bank, sweetie. And depositing a Trump check. Honey, Donald Trump.
This fight severs her and Sheree's relationship for the time being. She's also not close with Phaedra and Kandi, so she's kind of off on an island with Cynthia and eventually Marlo when she joins partway through the season. We're seeing a very different Nene here. Donald Trump has not gotten nearly enough flack for what he did to Nene because after she was on The Apprentice, she becomes insufferably materialistic. She's really into labels.
Guests are dressed in their nice Versace and DVF and their Gucci and their Christian Louboutins.
And when Marlo comes along, it just gets worse. Don't get me wrong, she's still Nene Leakes and delivering some incredible moments.
Okay. Whatever that means. It's getting weird. But I still need to get this watch. Bling, bling, bling. Bitches is mad.
And it's great to see her achieving success, but she seems a little less into the show and kind of above it all. So moral of the story is that Kim and Nene both seem to be checked out from the show. The focus seems to have shifted more onto Kandi and Phaedra, both of whom are having incredible seasons in year 4, but the anchor of the Kim-Sheree-Nene dynamic seems to be adrift. As far as the relationship between the two of them, it's essentially non-existent. We hardly see them in the same room, and even during the blue moons when that happens, they don't interact. It's in one of these moments that we see Nene gain an interest in Marlo, who she previously had some slight tension with over Charles Grant, as Marlo was making fun of Kim about Big Papa, which has now become a very sore subject now that she's all in on Kroy. It's Mama Joyce who finally gets them to speak to one another.
You don't have to kiss her, just say hi.
Hi, Nene.
Having to force them to greet the other at a group dinner.
Nene, say hi, Kim.
Hi.
She tries, she really does, to get them back on track, but they explain it's simply not going to happen. Kim, surprise, surprise, wiggles out of the trip to South Africa, though to be fair, she's just given birth and moved, so we have several episodes where we barely hear from Kim at all. If you want a full breakdown on this trip, check out my Cash Trips Part 2 video, but one thing worth mentioning is that on the trip, Cynthia, in a rare moment free of her fellow Talls, had mentioned that she couldn't see Kim in Africa holding a baby, and Kandi agrees that she can't picture Kim here. It's pretty innocuous in the moment, but Sheree runs it back to Kim, which flares up the tension between Kandi and Kim, who really hadn't gotten back on better footing after they had the falling out over Tardy for the Party. This further isolates Kim from the Smalls, and while they do make up, Kim's only real ally is Sheree. Towards the end of the season, we see Nene fly out to LA and meet Ryan Murphy to discuss a role on Glee, and Kim gets engaged. They end the season having really achieved a huge degree of success. In terms of their relationship, they really don't interact much at all. They spar a few times at the reunion, but in a moment where they're reflecting upon Nene getting both Kim and Sheree on the show, Kim expresses some degree of appreciation for Nene because of all that she's gained from being on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Marlo goes wild on Kim.
You are a whore.
but in terms of Nene versus Kim, it's relatively mild. So this takes us to season 5. Both Nene and Kim are starring on other shows, Nene's being The Scripted, The New Normal, which has her spending a lot of her time in LA. Kim is starring in her own spin-off reality show called Don't Be Tardy. Kim's life is in chaos because she's been evicted from her dream home. It's kind of all she talks about this season. Nene's gotten a bit more level-headed as she's feeling fulfilled with her acting career, which has really taken off.
I have arrived. I have achieved. And I can't believe it. Everywhere I go, people know who I am. And it was just, I just had this moment of thinking, I can't believe these people know who the hell I am.
And she's starting to rekindle things with Gregg. She's in a really good place, but isn't super present on the show as she's in LA so much. Kim is kind of the same, except she's not in LA, she's at her house. To be fair, again, she's pregnant, so she's not doing too much with the other girls. It's kind of a situation you may not notice unless you're watching specifically for Kim and Nene, because Kenya Moore has stepped on the scene and immediately pulled all of the focus. We do have a few scenes with Nene and Kim, though. It seems like Nene is testing the waters of rekindling with Kim as she gives the green light for Kim to be invited to her female empowerment party. Kim does show up, and not even that late, but she gets aggravated because Nene has a wardrobe malfunction that delays the event. When Kim decides to leave, she runs into Nene, who wants her to stay for just a bit. Kim lies and says she's going to the bathroom, I think that's what TT means, and then dashes out, leaving Nene feeling miffed. This is becoming an issue with all of the women, especially Kandi, as they feel that she always has some excuse to not be with the girls. This comes to a boiling point when they all meet up for brunch to discuss the upcoming trip to Anguilla. Kim is kind of giving half answers to things about the trip, and when she's asked point blank if she's going, she says she has to run it by her doctor and then finally admits she's not going. All of the women are upset by this, as they had specifically scheduled the event around Kim's pregnancy to ensure she could be there. They had all given up on opportunities to go on this specific date, and now Kim is backed out. To be fair, again, Kim is pregnant and is worried about traveling so late in her pregnancy, but apparently she had cleared it before this season even began filming. She says she thought the trip would be in the US, and I guess Anguilla isn't a super easy place to travel to, but it seems as if that should have been communicated before this trip was planned. The women have completely had it with Kim and air all of their grievances with her. I think a lot of this was about the show. They all had to show up and film and be friends with each other, but Kim gets a pass to keep getting airtime and the paycheck while filming from home. This isn't season 1 of Orange County, where that was the premise. The whole idea is that they hang out with each other, and Kim really wasn't keeping up with her end of the bargain. I get that her life and priorities have changed. We sadly hadn't heard anything about her singing career in an awfully long time, but it's clear that the show just isn't a good fit for her anymore. Kim seems to see this as well and storms out of the restaurant to Kroy, who has been waiting for her in the car the whole time. They have an altercation with the cameraman, and she quits on the spot in an explosive moment, never to be seen again until the reunion. Props to her for showing up. Most other women who have been in a similar situation haven't done so, and the reunion isn't great for her. It's mostly her versus Kandi, but we actually get a really sweet moment between Nene and Kim as they reflect on their friendship. Nene said she doesn't see them being super close, but never say never. Kim says they have a level of respect for each other no matter what. They've been close since before the show even aired, and Kim thinks Nene gets her better than anyone else. They end with a hug, and it's a very hopeful scene. So now Kim is out of the picture. Nene would last a little while longer before parting ways with the show for a brief period after season 7. Both of them popped up on the show here and there, but after a very controversial season 9, the show seemed to want to get back to its roots with the Sheree, Nene, Kim trifecta, and Nene returned as a full-time housewife and Kim returned as a friend of for season 10. Nene is brought back on by her bestie Cynthia, and Kim is brought back on by her bestie Sheree. Kim immediately starts stirring the pot, bringing up having seen Nene at the mall with someone other than Bryce, having parked in a handicapped spot. Kim's big debut is at Nene's Girls and Gays Never Forget All-White Party Seafood Soiree.
Is that Kim Zolciak?
Lisa Wu is also there, so we get a fun little OG moment. Nene seems excited that Kim is there and even laughs off the handicap spot comment.
No, it wasn't Brent. I was with a handicapped person.
It seems like things are in a good place before hell breaks loose when Kim randomly accuses Kenya of faking her marriage.
Well, where is he? Worry about your husband. My husband's real, bitch. As real as your hair.
The fight quickly escalates to some horrible accusations.
Worry about your life and the daughter you pimp out for John Legend tickets.
And Kim tries to get physical with Kenya before Kroy, who I guess was once again waiting in the car outside, came in and pulled Kim away. Sheree, Kim, and Kroy dash off to Porsha's house, and she can't believe the whole ordeal either.
That's a wrap after that. You don't mention someone's children, period, and your injured son and your whole daughter.
Kim, Porsha, and Sheree become a trio of sorts because at this point, everyone also hates Porsha. We finally are about to get the scene we've been waiting for as Nene, Sheree, and Kim are scheduled to have dinner, but Nene is a no-show, saying she wants to talk to Kim without Sheree there. It's a major letdown, but Nene makes it up to us by hosting the incredible psychic Mbele in a clearing the elephants out of the room party. Nene's really delivering with the events this season. If you want a full breakdown of this event, watch my psychic storyline rankings video, but basically Kim is acting like a bit of a diva, not playing by the rules, as annoying as they may be.
This is a no cell phone zone. What?
No, that's not gonna work. I got 6 babies at home.
Kim runs Mbele out of the room, and we finally get the long-awaited Nene and Kim sit down. Nene says something feels off and they just can't get to a good place. Kim accuses Nene of being on drugs and says her eyes look vacant. Nene denies this and says they're not able to get beyond the surface level. She thinks Kim isn't supportive, which Kim denies. They end on a bad note and are worse off than they were initially. At this point, the ladies are planning a trip to Barcelona, but Kim says she won't go unless Kroy can come. She says that she had a stroke after a flight from LA to Atlanta and is worried it'll happen again and wants Kroy there just in case it does. It's a hard no from the other women, so Kim doesn't go. They're all super annoyed that she's pulling this again. It's now the 3rd time it's happened, if you're keeping score. They talked about it in the van on the trip, and Nene has a lot to say. She makes fun of all of Kim's alleged health issues with her special Nene flair.
Cancer, stroke, thyroid, open heart surgery, and still living. I can't get over it. It's amazing. God is a good honey. She's had it all. She need to have an electric stroller.
Porsha, bless her heart, calls Kim up and says she didn't know she was a cancer survivor, which tips Kim off that there's been some gossiping going on. Porsha and Sheree spill everything, and an off-camera Kim is fired up. She texts the entire group blasting Nene. She says Nene needs to worry about the state of her home as her daughter took a video of cockroaches as well as a picture of her car in the handicap spot. Most of the women, sans of course Sheree, think this was way too far to go as the sole intention by doing this is to humiliate Nene and imply she's gross or dirty. There's an extra layer of ickiness as by bringing up roaches, it inflames racial stereotypes.
Time out, just listen to me for a second. When you say, oh, that person got roaches, it's like you're saying their house is project style. As a black woman, it's like an insult. You know what I'm saying?
Most of the women, except for Sheree, are kind of done with Kim at this point and think she owes Nene an apology. Nene is mad and fires back on social media, getting into it with Kim's daughter Brielle, calling the whole family racist and hashtagging the post KKK. Kim says she was receiving death threats and had to hire security. She filed a cease and desist against Nene, but then Nene made a nasty comment during a comedy show which caused a lot of negative attention to be lobbed her way, leading to her being removed from Kandi's escape tour and shifting her focus away from Kim. Kim goes to dinner with Kandi and kind of seals her fate with regards to going forward on the show because they hash out all of their long-running issues, and while they end on a semi-decent note, it's clear that Kandi doesn't really have time for Kim, as Kim never has time for any of the ladies. Sheree, on the other hand, has pledged her allegiance to the wig as she's defending Kim up and down and is very anti-Nene with regards to the comments. Nene makes light of the rhoc thing at the finale party, which is a Halloween party hosted by Eva, coming as an exterminator with Gregg as her rhoc. Even Kroy agrees it's kind of funny, but Kim is left fuming. She's also fallen out with Porsha by this point, so her only remaining ally is once again Sheree. Going into the reunion, it's really bad for Kim. All of the ladies let her have it, including, of course, Nene.
Where is your scooter?
They both throw really low blows at each other.
Too bad Gregg was married when she met him.
What about you dancing at Oasis for 20 years?
And unlike season 5 where they hugged it out, the blood just seemed bad. Kim ends her reunion on a terrible note, leaving a bad taste with the viewers.
This whole racism thing in this day and age is bullshit.
From there, we would get pops here and there on the state of their relationship, but there wasn't any major movement. Nene left the show 2 seasons later after season 12 and then would go on to file a lawsuit against the network, claiming they were fostering a racist environment. She made some bombshell accusations against Kim, saying that she called the women the N-word during season 5. She would go on to drop the suit, but it seems as if the door is closed on Nene returning. It would seem as if Kim would be out too, given her exit from the show, but rumors have been swirling lately that Sheree is trying to get her back on, and since her spinoff was canceled and she seems to be having financial issues of sorts, I'm sure the Bravo check and chance to be back on TV would be attractive if it was offered. So it looks like we won't see them back together again on TV, which I would say is a shame if it was 2009, but it's not, and I think it's clear that what they once had is likely gone forever. They were 2 extremely fun and entertaining women who were incredibly competitive with each other, and all that was exacerbated when they were thrown into the spotlight, and the stakes for what success looked like continued to be raised. I think they both worked best playing off of each other. Nene is funniest when she's reacting to those around her, and Kim gave her a lot of material to work with. It didn't come off that mean because Kim will always stand up for herself and fight back and doesn't seem to let other people's view of her cloud her own self-image, so it didn't feel so much like punching down. Nene also made Kim work for her check, and I think because Kim does care for Nene, she seemed more engaged when it came to her than when it came to the other ladies. The two of them, along with Sheree, really made those early years of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, but the success they garnered on the show is ultimately what led to their demise as Real Housewives. So those are my thoughts on Kim and Nene's relationship. Let me know in the comments what you think of both of these iconic housewives. If you want to connect on social media, my handles for both Twitter and Instagram are @deeplysuperfish. I'll link them below in the description. But for now, I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.